chairperson of IIM Kashipur. Muthuraman is a vast corporate experience. He's been with CRISIL and now River Bridge Capital and also Swarajya Smart. Guru Vittal is the cluster head of HDFC AMC, and Sundar Raman is insolvency and tax expert, and he's also the treasurer of Chennai Citizens Forum. Over to all of you.
Everyone, vanakkam. Pleasure to be here amongst the highly learned professionals. Been enjoying the Lit Fest since yesterday. A lot of Anevarukkum vanakkam. Very happy to be here in this Lit Fest. It's a continuous learning since yesterday. The topic for the panel: economics of the Viksit Bharat, the Dharma of Artha. It is a well-settled position that wealth must be earned through Dharma, never through Adharma. There's a saying which says, Dharmena Artha Prapyete, na Adharmena Kadachana. This is not just a moral line, it's the fundamental principle of the Indian economics. Friends, you all know that India is the fastest growing the economy. We will touch the 5 trillion sooner, 10 trillion within this decade. We are going very fast in the digital inclusion, infrastructure, entrepreneurship. But here in Tamil Nadu, the paradox is sharp. A state once known well for the literacy and, of course, the industrialization. There are challenges. It faces now huge debt, declining education quality in governments, moral contradiction in fiscal policy, liquor revenue sustains welfare, temples lie neglected, and freebies replace fundamentals. The question before us is therefore simple. Can there be progress without Dharma? Can the model so claimed here, politics without spiritual balance, sustains a Viksit Bharat? I would like to start with Sandeep ji straight to put the record in place. And also I want the outcome of this panel to set a message for 2026 here.
Thank you, and thanks to the organizers.
What is therefore, to start with the foundation of the Viksit Bharat, the root of Dharma, what is according to each of you the Viksit Bharat?
Thank you to the organizers for inviting me here. And before I answer your questions, one small disclaimer. Those who would have seen me yesterday and today wearing the same t-shirt, it's not that I don't wear other clothes. It's just that I've written 2 volumes on temple economics. Second one is called A Decade for Mandir, where I call for people or Hindus to give next 10 years of your life for Mandir. Doesn't matter you are 70 years old or 10 years old. Doesn't matter you are a male or a female or rich and poor. And the smallest thing that you can do is that start visiting mandirs every day. Every Hindu does that. If 40-50 crore Hindus start visiting mandir every day, and most of the problems will be solved. So this is the message this t-shirt says. Did you go to the mandir today? And in case you want a copy of this t-shirt, please, I have them. I've taken care of the economics, now to Viksit Bharat. To me, Viksit Bharat, I think should not be measured in a $30 trillion or a $50 trillion economy. Basic idea of Viksit Bharat is that our people are going to be happy. Because barring 10-15 countries in the world, most may or may not be able to reach that kind of economy. It doesn't mean people living in Bhutan are not happy or people living in smaller nations are not happy. The Viksit Bharat criteria is that are people going to live happily. And there are different dimensions to measure it. Mine is that so far we have been, ancient history, if you look, we have been a rich country. But every time we created wealth, it was looted. So for me, today, Viksit Bharat means is that the wealth that we create today should remain for us and our progenies and it should not be looted again. So along with wealth, we need to create that might, the strength to protect that wealth that we are creating, which our forefathers somehow forgot. Or they did, but it was not adequate. So it doesn't mean having a very strong army, and it doesn't mean having a very strong defense and defense personnel that we always had. But as a society, are we mentally strong? You know, we say we should have a war. How many of us can see a blood? And how many of us can tolerate others' blood and our own body? When you get into physical combat, you will experience that, you know. So we need a very strong mental society as well to create a strong nation so that the wealth that we generate is protected. I'll conclude this part with just two lines. Bharat was called Sone ki Chidiya. We are very happy we're called Sone ki Chidiya. Have you thought why it was Chidiya? Chidiya means a sparrow whom you can, whenever you want, you can squeeze and take the money out of it. We ideally should have been called Sone ka Garud. You know, that's what our history scriptures talk about. If you go today, the NSG, the equivalent of NSG in Indonesia, the biggest Muslim nation, is called Garuda Force. Their biggest military exercise with US, which is an annual event, is called Garuda. Their emblem of NSG is Garuda. So, you know, we need to understand, and everything we should not accept what we are told. Sone ki Chidiya is nothing to be proud of. It should be ashamed. Every time we created wealth, it was looted and we allowed it to be. So we should take that oath. Now onwards, it will not happen. The wealth we create is for us and our progenies.
Thanks, Sandeep ji. That's quite inspiring. Yeah, thanks to the organizers for giving me this opportunity. See, my perspective on Viksit Bharat, as in its destiny, we are definitely going to be a multi-trillion-dollar economy. As in, it took 60 years for us to reach the first trillion, 7 years for the next 2 trillions. It'll be 4 years, 3 years, and every year we'll be adding a trillion. So, which means we will be, as in, we will reach $10,000 per capita, probably 2032, 2033. Which means government will be more wealthy. Each of us individuals will be more wealthy. And our institutions, including temples, will be more wealthy. So how you want that situation to be? A secular, agnostic economy that is thriving on consumption? Or do you want a Dharmic society at that point of time? So as individuals, what we can do? So today, everybody becomes a wealthy person. Are you happy donating it to a secular cause? As in, I'm sure there are enough cases where there is a medical need, or where there is an education need, or where there is a disabled need, and all of that. By all means, yes, that is the role of the government to take care of all that. As Hindus, can we support Dharmic causes? Unfortunately, in Tamil Nadu, as in despite so many temples being wealthy, that is kind of captured by the government of the day. And where they should be spending on a Veda Parashala or a Goshala or educating the Pusaris and village deities, upkeep of smaller temples, they are building marriage halls and shopping complexes and car parking and trying to generate more wealth for the executives to this thing. So where does that leave us as an individuals? If we are Viksit, as in developed economy, we should be able to choose where we want to spend. And every religion, as in Christianity has Dasama Bhagam. 1/10 of your income you are supposed to spend on the religion. Islam has Zakat. 1/8 of your revenue you are supposed to give to the religions. Here we don't have such a central authority. And wherever you are giving voluntarily also, it is not reaching the intended recipients. So as individuals, can you take more ownership in spending towards Dharmic causes? I'd like to just highlight a couple of examples. There's a Hindu fund, Rahul Devan and few others have put together, as in supporting, explicitly, the name itself is Hindu fund, and supporting Dharmic causes. See if you can consider something like this. There is Dharman's Foundation, another friend of mine, Dr. Ratno runs it. Name itself is Dharmansh and supports explicit Hindu causes. So my call for action for individuals when we reach that this thing where we reach that affordability is that spend for directly for Hindu causes. Yes, there are people who are striving to retrieve temples from the government clutches so that it can be put to better use. That is some time away. That case is running from 1991, probably in our lifetime, not sure whether it will get relief. But we cannot sit idle and then wait for the court to deliver justice. We need to redirect our resources to where it actually makes sense for dharmic causes, and that's where my call will.
Thank you, sir. I think you put it very nicely. First of all, thank you for the organizers in organizing this Lit Fest. I think I've been happy to participate in almost four. And it was, I think, in the wonderful cause. I think you're all here, gathered out here. To me, what is Viksit Bharat? Because thankfully, I think all along in the last 2 decades of my career, I've spent only in the financial services industry by creating wealth. So to me, the topic which is given is like Dharma and Astra. So the 4 principles, what we called as Dharma, Astra and Kama, and finally the Moksha. When somebody, the very purpose of human life is to achieve their Moksha. So how does it happen? It happens, starts from Dharma and doing the ethical duty, and the second become the spiritual wealth, or it's a material wealth is called as again the Astra, and the third one is Kama, which is to our industry, the industry where I worked is the completely relationship, which actually creates the holistic approach. Because to put it on the different perspective, the industry where I work or represent is the fiduciary responsibility. When I say fiduciary responsibility, acting upon others' benefit, and also thanks to the government, thanks to the regulatory, I think they have been doing phenomenal job in bringing very interesting activities in reducing or in making the very, very transparent industry and creating wealth. To put some numbers, I think, as I told you, I'm in the financial services industry. This financial services industry, I think way back in the year 2008 or 17, to put something on the mutual fund side, to put it, the SIP numbers was somewhere around, if I'm not wrong, about 7,000 crore. And then next it becomes 7 to 14,000 crore. From 14,000 crore, now we are presently about 28,000 crore. Which means if everyone contributes something on the capital market and everybody becomes, because when I say everybody, starting from the fiduciary responsibility of the asset management company, when they perform the duty, fiduciary responsibility, the apt manner, and that becomes the duty, the fantastic duty, and then followed by the thing what I actually also meant is the wealth creation, followed by the better relationship, and also ultimately achieving the purpose of life to reach the moksha, and it actually creates a financial freedom. And to put all that into my mind, the Viksit Bharat, what we're talking about in the year 2047 is certain. To also give you some more interesting number, it took India almost 60 years to create 1 trillion. And then it took India to create a 2nd trillion in next 7 years. And then the 3rd trillion, it took another 7 years. And for the 4th trillion, it took only about, if I'm not wrong, 4 years. I think we are very soon to achieve the 5 trillion. And the economic advisor of the PM government, they have said it will reach by around 7 trillion in other, I think, Sir Sandeepji really interestingly mentioned. I think we are certainly marching towards 10 and 20 and 30 in the year 2047. And the other point to also tell you, the unique investors in the investments capital market, what we talk about, given population of 144 billion, now only 5.8 crores. And what we believe in the year Viksit Bharat, and we expect the massive number of investors will become 22 crore, and which will create phenomenal wealth for all of us. Beyond creating wealth, Sandeepji also mentioned protecting of the wealth is the most important. That can happen only by way of interesting awareness, and also talking to a right people for the right wealth creation. I think that reaches the Viksit Bharat. I hope this answers.
Yes. So I think that sets right the soul of the discussion. Dharma as the compass measure to the economics, as the state which rises in the progress. So the balance sheet rises, the ledger falls when the the Dharmic values falls. Sandeep Singh, to take it forward, more insights on, since you have authored the book on the temple economics as well, I would like to put forth the following idea. The temple once sustained local economies, as Muthuraman pointed out, through Annadanam, Veda Padasalas, and Goshalas. Today in Tamil Nadu, the HRNC controls nearly 36,000 plus odd temples here. Yet many stands neglected, priest unpaid, tanks encroached. Is this Rajadharma? Or as the state failed Chanakya's the third sutra, Arthasya Moolam Rajyam? The duty to generate wealth for protecting Dharma. If you can dwell upon it with more on from insights from your book on more on these ideas.
Okay, so I think we need to first establish, what is temple economics. So generally, normally we look at the revenue part of the mandir and consider it to be economics. That mandir mein itna chadhawa hai, so much of money was donated, or so much of money has come from the mandir's rented properties, and that we start looking at economics. Economics is very different and revenue is different. And to give an example how a temple economics works and why we need to keep it. The modern industrial town was Detroit. That was the first modern industrial town where you got cars getting manufactured. And that's how the modern MBA originated from there, looking at the assembly line production. That city was established in 1925. In 2025, its population is 1/4. And it's considered a dying city. If you go on the internet, if you search Rust Belt of USA, you will find Detroit and the area surrounding it. The answer is very simple, that the people started manufacturing cars cheaper in Japan, Philippines, Korea, India, and the city died. And if you look at any industrial country or a continent, Europe, Russia, China, just type a ghost towns, you will have a huge list of towns which are dying or dead because replacement is getting manufactured somewhere else or a better quality product. Now you come to the other part, look for the oldest living civilization cities in the world. I'll explain what living city is. You'll get the name of Ujjainji, Kashiji, Rameshwaramji, Ayodhyaji, that's how we call them. So now this cities doesn't have an industry, but economy is an important part, as Chanakya said, it's been repeated from yesterday. So we need to understand what was the Arthic model or the economic model of it. So each such cities have their own product. There are many in my book. I've given example. I'll give you just one small example. And think of a sari's name. Banarsi, Kanjivaram, Sambalpuri, Dhakeshwari. Each sari comes where is a mandir of a Devi. And there is a reason for it. How do you differentiate saris between Sambalpuri or a Banarsi? Both are silk. It will be the design, the pattern that you see. So look at the fall. The shikhars of different region has different kind of shikhar. So Bengali saris will have those terracotta shikhars in the fall. Coming from south, so that's one way how you identify a sari. Next is that the motif that you see. So in a Banarsi sari, only those fool, patti, flower and petals will be designed which are offered to Ma Parvati, and similarly for Sambaleshwari sari. That's how ladies will, I'm sure, authenticate to identify different saris by design. So there are several such products which came out from every temple town, and that's how they sustained it. What is a living city? So people still live in Egypt. There were people who used to live in Egypt, but they are not the same people because they cannot build another pyramid the way it was built. They cannot actually today still properly explain why it was built and how it was built. We have mandirs which are very old, 1,000 years and more than old, and we can still build similar style mandirs. We just built in Ayodhya one without a cement and an iron, which we found in Bradeshwar Mandir. So this knowledge has been passed down to us from generation after generation. Give another example, look at a Nataraj statue, which is a huge 90-minute talk itself on Nataraj Murti. I'll just leave with you one example. It is made still today using the lost wax technology, which is considered to be 4,500-year-old only. And again, that information has been passed down to us generation after generation. So hence, we are a living city or a living civilization, and maybe the only one. And that's why I say we Indians and Hindus should have a bit of arrogance of this, that we are the only living civilization. Now, if we don't understand this, saving mandir is not only, or destroying mandir is not destroying Sanatan. It's destroying a whole civilization. If you won't have mandirs, the civilizations will not survive. So for us, that's why we say Desh and Dharma are the same. And how do you fight? See, each time, so, people say, ki, if government leaves the mandir, who will manage it? My answer is twofold. This is the same logic British used to give. If you leave India, how will they manage them? And second, this government, whichever party, forget it, this government is only 75-year-old. Our mandirs are older than 1,000 years. They have seen people like Tipu Sultan to Aurangzeb and survived. So how did they survive? Because there is a society which stands up and fights for it. And even today, as I said, that if each Hindu starts going to mandir every day, you'll start feeling that connect. And it has huge benefits of going to mandir every day. If I get a chance, I'll speak. Now I'll remit to the economic part, is that once we start visiting the mandir every day, then you build a connect to start speaking for it, and the government will automatically have to move out of mandir. You don't need to fight so much on court. I'm not against those people. They're doing a great job. But we start speaking for mandirs. Mandir belongs to each one of us. No one else will come to fight for our mandir. Wherever we are, we have to speak and fight for it, because it survives the civilization and not only the economics.
Maybe Muthuraman would like to probably add a few insights to that, more particularly when the state fails to protect the Dharma, can society alone reclaim it? That's number one. But also a lot of young minds here, when Sandeep ji said, did you go to Mandir today? I was casually interacting with the few people here. So I would like to probably post a past type of question to you here to kindle the young minds. Which better serves Dharma according to you? A 15,000 trip to Tirupati for a 3-second darshan, or lighting lamps in a small village temple for a month? Which uplifts society more? A 25,000 donation to a global NGO, or sponsoring 5 Veda Pathasala students?
Yeah. Thanks, and I'll thank Anuradha ji for sparking this debate when we met last. So, so we all take, as in the sense, it has become in our part of psyche, make a trip to Tirupati, you spend probably 25,000, 30,000, 50,000. By all means, if you can afford, please go ahead and do that. But not at the cost of doing something for your local temple or the neglected temples or the smaller ones which desperately need support. And more importantly, the pujaari in a village temple or in an Agama temple, a priest definitely needs the kind of support. As in today, even in a well-run temple, the HRNC's salary for a priest is some 3,000, 4,000 rupees. How can somebody expect to maintain a livelihood with that salary? And so naturally, the next generation feels that much more alien to take up that profession, and you do. As in you lose the generations of continuity of traditions that are practiced in those temples. So as individuals, can we do, as in particularly more so in Tamil Nadu, where there's a hostile environment. A Deputy CM talks about eradicating Sanatana Dharma, and everywhere, as in rampant misuse of temple resources, etc. So as individuals, can we take that initiative to go and support support any temple of your choice directly? Support the priest there, donate oil for daily lighting, daily pujas. So that, as in the sense, Sandeep ji, as in couldn't, nobody could put it better. That sustenance of that temple is essential for Bharat to remain Bharat for generations to come. And each of you, I think, should take that initiative. That's my take on this.
Guruji, since you come from the investment, the background, the India's youth will drive the 10 trillion dream. But can they build wealth through dharma? Our traditions lacks more particularly a formal charity tax like zakat or Dasama Bhagam, which Sandeep ji was also pointing on, the earlier speaker also talking about that. trusting the inner moral compass instead. Should entrepreneurs voluntarily commit? Of course, there are changing dynamic CSR regulations under the Companies Act, though. So, should entrepreneurs voluntarily commit part of their profits to dharmic causes, temples, goshalas, educations, and culture as a new form of ethical capital formation?
Yes, I think what is a way you nailed it, a very important question. Yes, I would answer in this question in two parts. One, when it comes to youth is building or creating wealth. See, what actually happens is that now the very purpose of youth, the key priority for them when compared to ours about 10, 20, 30 years before and now, the priority is completely changed. What is our priority in about 20, 30 years back then, and what is the current priority of the youth now is totally, there's a lot of changes. If I have to ask you a basic question, to put it even in a simple and layman language, when I was out of my college days, my parents or the elders used to ask me the key 5 question: what do you wanted to be? I used to always mention that I want to have a good job, stable income, marry and raise family, and one house, finally one car. This is the whole thing. But now if you ask this question to the current youth, you will not even have this answer, not even a percentage of the answer. The total priority has now completely changed. So to add your to second question to relate it to this answer, the entrepreneurs now have to really awake, and they should create very interesting proposals in such a way that the contribution of CSR activity and creating awareness amongst the youth and it has to be a primary part. Second most important thing is that again, from the investment background, what we also always say is that our duty or our dharma is not only to do sales job. Our duty is to do lot of awareness creation, which also imbibes the entrepreneur's contribution. Let's say, to put it simple, I just quote one of our funds in our HDFC mutual fund. We have created one interesting fund called HDFC Cancer Cure Fund that has to do with a CSR activity. Most of this investment comes to all of them. It generally comes with, they generally want little more higher, more returns. But this is the one fund actually creates, and the fund that actually goes back to the society. And it not only an entrepreneur, including the financial institution who has the fiduciary responsibility, we have inclined to create this aspect to also create awareness amongst the youth, also ensure the entrepreneurs also to come and be part of the one investment which can actually go back to the society. I think the view of Viksit Bharat, the view of all this government initiatives, the regulatory board, fiduciary responsibility, I think I sincerely applaud to all of you. Without you, the engines of stock market would have not been there. Earlier, we were only dependent on the stock market per se, to depend only on FII. Now, DIIs, domestic institutional investors, are way above the FII, and SIP is now become the other. So, to put it all in a one nutshell, yes, indeed, youth have to really follow the dharma of doing the core duty, working in a right industry and with the right intent of very apt knowledge, and it can actually create a better relationship with what we called as the karma, and finally achieve your moksha. I think, yes, I think that actually concises the whole answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably Sandeepji, just to probably loop in the wealth creation, what does the principle of dharma influence wealth creation and policy in today's India? But also I would like to seek your views on can India's growth be both competitive and compassionate?
Okay. The first part, what you said, that the dharmic model or, for the growth of entrepreneurship, we need to be very clear in that the government discriminates between the youth of this country, and I'll tell you how. So there is a section who is in the name of minority gets money for the birth of a kid, for education for his kid, for the coaching of his kid. Now look at the Hindu youth. He has to take care of his family, the birth expenses, the education, the coaching. Obviously, his risk-taking appetite is very low. He can't become an entrepreneur that we keep talking of entrepreneurship, because by design, his risk-taking ability has been curtailed. It's a jizya in a different form that we are paying. Look at a Bihar election. I feel ashamed that the promises are being made of a 1 crore job or a 3 crore job, while we should be talking of making entrepreneurs. but our policy doesn't allows our Hindu youth to become an entrepreneur. Just look at it. If you want to start your industry, you have to think your school's kids' fees, treatment, coaching. Obviously, you will not. You will look for a regular cash flow. That means you are looking for a job and not for an entrepreneurship. So where is that entrepreneurship skill is being killed for the Hindu youth is by the government policies. So if you have to talk of a Viksit Bharat, we need to provide level playing field. Uh, and the second part that you had said was compassionate and competitive. So this, in the international world of today, there's nothing called compassion. You have seen what the language term is talking about. So just to give two examples from a past and from a present. After independence, there was a huge shortage of food in India before Green Revolution happened. So India was looking to import food. United States of America, in its magnanimity, agreed to provide food which they had grown for their consumption of the animals. And they said, we'll provide that. Thus, the condition they put was very simple. They wanted India to export sands which had high thorium content, which India had put a ban after independence. The negotiations went on for a year. There was scarcity of rain, there was scarcity of food in the country, and ultimately government had to succumb. And to get that animal grade food, India had to export sands which had a high thorium content. It is famously known as PL480 scheme. The elders will know. If you just Google, you have a now CIA's declassified document, and you'll have many literature. And the food that it came with a lot of parasites. Again, there are a lot of research paper which was to destroy our agricultural food product. So there is no compassion in international world. And we all have gone through the Chinese virus recently. I don't know how many of you noticed or realized that to supply vaccines to Argentina and Brazil, guess what Pfizer demanded? Pfizer wanted their military assets to be handed over to Pfizer and their embassies to be handing over to the Pfizer. For Argentina and Brazil, and they're not smaller countries, just go on the internet, it happened in front of our eyes, we didn't realize it. So the world geopolitics, geoeconomics plays in a very different way. And India had a huge leverage. Just imagine if to give animal grade food, they asked that. Today to give vaccine, what all they would have asked for. We haven't thanked this government enough, I think, as a citizen. And I'll tell you a very interesting thing. So Taiwan is recognized by only 12 countries in the world. Now 11. Papua New Guinea took away its recognition of Taiwan as a country. And Paraguay is one of them. So Pfizer told that they will give vaccine to Paraguay provided they de-recognize Taiwan as a country. And Taiwan requested India to give vaccines to Paraguay so that the recognition continues. Mind it, India doesn't recognize Taiwan as a country, so geopolitics, geoeconomics plays very differently. And India supplied vaccines to Paraguay, and Paraguay continues to recognize Taiwan as a country. And this came out from the foreign minister of Paraguay. He mentioned it in one of his talks. So geopolitics, geoeconomics plays differently. So no compassion in international competition.
I take that as we're closing, Ima, as well. Muthuraman, you're a co-founder of Swarajya as well as leading the smart technology. So India is in the phase of building the Dharmic digital Bharat, PR. So do you feel that from GST to digital India, do you see Dharma reflected in today's reform agenda? How do we ensure that this artificial intelligence or fintech and automation empower people rather than displace them? That is towards building a Dharmic digital Bharat.
Yeah, thanks. I think we missed the bus a little. I think there is some consciousness that is coming back at this point of time for data localization, training models based on Indian data, this recent love for Zoho, and we are still a little late in this bus, but it is going to be a long journey. And fortunately for us, the Artha, the economics is in our favor, as in we are one of the fewest fast-growing large economies. No country, no company can afford to ignore India, and we can, if the government of the day has its priorities right, can insist on certain things Like for example, Pfizer is not asking the military on its own. Obviously, US government is directing it. So if our government can direct our Indian companies as well as foreign companies entering India to ensure data localization, to ensure anti-India bias in LLM models are removed, to ensure certain preconditions for entry and access to Indian market, which I'm sure as in, the current government is conscious of. I think we should be able to catch up on what we lost so far in the next few years. That's me.
Thank you. I think before they ring the bell, we conclude that Dharma Rakshita Rakshataka Dharma still protects. Thank you all. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for the time. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers. I'm afraid there's no time for any questions, but maybe we can have questions offline during the lunchtime. I would just request Dr. Murali to please felicitate Muthuraman sir, Shri Gopalakrishna ji to felicitate Guru Vittal ji, Shri Sangeet ji to felicitate Sundar Raman ji, and Shri Rajan ji to kindly felicitate Sandeep Singh ji.